I'll get a little nervous, but
All right, so I'm going to do file, new model,
Mhm.
and let's just do a new diagram. Okay, so I'm just going to real quick kind of reproduce this real quick without a lot of the detail.
Okay.
Keep in mind. So the first thing we had was a
Owner.
owner. That's right. So we have an owner, and I always kind of like to set mine up just like owner ID, primary key, automatic increment. So we're going to leave that there. And we're just going to kind of build the structure in just enough content to kind of get the gist of it here.
Okay.
And then we have a center.
Uh-huh. Is it typical to label the tables lowercase, uppercase, doesn't matter?
Yeah, so typically, and this is where it kind of gets funny. So in MySQL, the preference is lowercase.
Okay.
In Postgres, it's lowercase with underscores. Same thing as MySQL, but then for whatever reason in SQL Server, they like it capitalized camel case. So it kind of just depends on what you're using, which is
Okay.
interesting. All right, so yeah, so we have owner, center, we had subscription,
Subscriptions. Mhm.
and that's actually where I'm going to stop.
Okay.
Just for right now. I mean, we'll come back to it, but and add in the tools later. But because this is kind of how I would do this, because there's kind of like, I like to think about it as a way we we kind of describe the data, or we almost like preset the data, and then there's a way we assign it to certain individuals or centers in this case.
Okay.
So like, for example, we have like our owner, and every owner can have multiple centers. So I'm going to add an owner ID here and change this to an int. And we're going to make that not null because we don't want a center that doesn't have an owner. And then you'll see a lot of people that'll build the foreign keys with the tools here. It to be frank, drives me bonkers to try to do it and get it right.
Okay.
So I do it like here with these little tabs, and it's pretty easy. So, so in this case, the foreign key is owner ID. It references owner ID. So you can kind of see it just built that line for
Oh,
me,
cool. Okay.
essentially. And then so this is where it gets a little bit interesting. So this is where I would make a little change. So subscription for me is going to basically be a way to define a preset subscription. And depending on, because you said they could kind of custom tailor a subscription, it sounds like pick certain
Yeah.
tools.
Yeah. The tools they sign up for what tools they want per prescription. And they're also the center can sign up what subscriptions they want.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So this is this, I guess, like we could do a couple things here. So let's in this case, we're gonna keep it more kind of how you had it, where a subscription is really like us, and this is kind of where I start to use my own preference. So do this as you will, because it just depends on your definition. But like, to me, like, for example, like Netflix has multiple, or Hulu or whatever, they have like different tiers of subscription. Um,
Oh.
if that makes sense. So like, let's say, and I'm going to build it like this just in case it inspires anything, because at the end of the day, it's going to all work the exact same, but it just gives us a little bit more almost flexibility. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a table that allows us to kind of preset up some various subscriptions, where we can give them like a name, like that maybe come with like a preset set of tools. Like, maybe there's a subscription that comes with all the tools, and whatever. And we can even build one that's like a custom tailored option. But this is, our subscriptions are going to be kind of more preset. So I'm going to give each subscription a name. I'm going to give each subscription a price. And like I said, I'm going to keep this super high level here for a little bit. Double 15.2. And every subscription has to have a price and that. So anyway, so we can give it a price. And this is kind of like where we define those. So we could kind of like preset up our packages. And the reason why I say kind of to do this is like, let's say we were going to build a website, right? We could actually have that website like use the database to display what subscriptions are available and their prices, like more as like a
cool.
marketing kind of tool.
Mhm.
Not so much just tracking. So I like to build those because then that way, you know, it all kind of ties together. And then this is where we'll kind of connect the two. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I actually like to call this like a center subscription.
Just so we know it's the go-between.
Yeah. And center subscription ID, you know, and there's lots of ways, like we could technically say like, oh, a subscription plan, and then the subscription is when a center has a subscription plan or something like that. But we'll keep it like this for now. And then just like you said, this is just the go between the two. So what I like to do is just do center ID, make that an int, not null. And then do the same thing. And like I said, I'm going to keep this super simple. So then we're going to do subscription ID. Whoops, and I keep hitting tab instead of return. Subscription ID. And not null. And then again, just go through this. And it's going to reference the center. And I really like, that's why I like doing that, because it names them for you. It kind of just does it.
Yeah.
So there we go. So that's kind of like the main kind of setup here is where we have like, you know, we have a center subscription, and then our main subscription. And this is kind of why I'm going to build it like this, because this is where our tools are going to come in.
Okay.
So tools, and then again, this is where we're going to predefine all of our tools, which yours was built the exact same way, where we have like our tools. We're going to give it a name. But what's cool about this is we can actually kind of give it like we have a lot of flexibility. This is why object oriented design is just amazing, because like let's say we want to do like ad hoc price. Like let's say someone just wants to kind of do like an add-on. We can just build that in here.
Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna leave it optional. And we'll even make a little flag, ad hoc flag. Ad hoc available flag. And it's just going to be a yes or no. So I'm just going to give it a varchar1 with a default of, let's just say yes. By default, we're going to make everything available for ad hoc. And by default, everything's going to be available for $100 extra. You know, something like that. So like that way, whenever we add something, it kind of comes preset with some stuff. And then what we're going to do, so we have our subscription, center subscription, all this. This is where I guess we really start to make our web here. Every subscription kind of comes with like a default set of subscription tool. So we're going to call this subscription tool ID. And it consists of a subscription ID and a tool ID. What did I call that? Tools? Yes, I did. We'll fix that here in a second. I always like to kind of keep it not plural.
Okay.
And it's just a simple fact that when you go to like build like the application, if you ever were, it makes it easier because you can actually auto-generate code off your database, which is
Cool.
Another fun little sidebar that could really go down a rabbit hole. So we won't go down it, but and I called this tools. so this is like where we could predefine like certain packages, subscriptions where, like, let's say I guess as a good example, like we can go look at, like, for example, there's a service called HubSpot that has, like, different tiers that comes with different tools, very similar, right? Like they have, like, they kind of base it on like their for example, create a bundle, right? And so you can like see like, oh, what comes with the sales one, and the features are quote their tools, where you can kind of see like, depending on what you choose, it comes with like different kinds of things, right? Where, depending on what or you can kind of like build your own quote package, but depending on, what we add, it comes with various different things.
Yeah, that's cool.
So that's kind of essentially like what we're building here. So we have like a subscription tool where they can kind of like get this pre-packaged kind of a thing. Or what we can do is we can, because we want to be flexible. We have a center subscription bundle. I'm actually just gonna call the subscription bundle for short. Center subscription ID.
And this will already be like pre-built in packages, like specific tools.
Yeah, so this one will be like a subscription pre-built with specific tools. So like, it may come with certain ones. Like I said, like for marketing purposes, maybe it just makes it easier. Like people's, like maybe there's just like kind of preset bundles that just like make sense for the use case. But then we're also going to make it so that, like if they want to kind of custom tailor it, they can.
Oh, got it. Okay.
And so what we'll do is, let's delete this one. Foreign key. I'm going to connect this to our center subscription. And so this one's, because like basically we have to kind of like build these like little ties. So like this bundle, because they may have a subscription, that kind of over encompasses like certain tools. Like let's say they want to add like a tool down the road or something. And so like I'm going to build this bundle, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some dates to it. So I'm going to say like, oh, start date, and we're going to make that, we could bring this down to like even the timestamp level, but like I said, for simplicity, we're going to keep it there. And then an end date. So that way, like if we can kind of keep a historical record of what is included in their subscription. And then this is where we're going to say it's a bundle tool. So we're going to say a bundle tool ID, primary key auto increment, and then subscription bundle ID. And a tool ID. And this is like where, again, there's lots of flexibility. Like if you wanted to make it so like, no matter what, like if they buy a certain subscription, it comes with these ones, and this one just holds the additionals. Or you can make it so like it comes with everything, basically if they subscribe to one of these, like it kind of like these ones are purely just for kind of like marketing, like say like, oh, these are our pre kind of set bundles. But really you just like HubSpot, maybe when they pick one, they can kind of customize it themselves essentially. So it's either you buy like the basket item or you customize it or both.
Mhm.
But yeah, this way we can kind of set it up. So like this one would work either way. It just depends on how you choose to like implement it in the application layer, which the nice thing is like for this class, we don't necessarily have to. But you could just like put this in here. So, depending on how it goes, but yeah, so this way you have kind of like your owner, that's kind of, the kind of key to all this because they own the centers, and then centers, they have subscriptions, and really I guess what we should have done is we should have tied let's do center subscription, sorry. So the center has subscriptions, and those subscriptions kind of have these pre-made definitions, so to speak, that
Mhm.
come with like presets of tools. But they can also kind of customize their own bundle, so to speak. So like,
Yeah.
this is the way that's their bundle. In that way, like, because like let's say they sign up for a certain subscription at like a base price, but they add tools down the road or something. Because like let's say they're using the base bundle, but then they're like, hey, we want to do an add-on because we really like your tool and this other one sounds really neat. You can say, okay, yeah, let's create you a new bundle. So you end date the previous bundle, you start a new bundle with the additional tool, and away you go, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That way, like at any given point, like if I said, hey, like let's say the center is Staples, right? I'm just gonna pick a random company. Let's say the center is Staples. And I say, hey, on this date, like what tools was Staples using? We can go back and look, even if they've changed things since then, or we can say, hey, over the past 30 days, like how many people have added a tool, and all sorts of stuff like that. So this start date, end date kind of thing is actually really handy. It's something that I would almost include anytime you want to track historical references. Each record will be kind of like a historical parent, if that makes sense, because the subscription bundle is kind of like this container for a list of tools that's timestamped. So every time they change their bundle, we essentially create a new bundle to kind of hold that item set. Or we could just put a start date and end date here to say like, oh, it's still part of the same bundle, but they just added it. Like I said, there's a million ways to skin the cat. But yeah, hopefully this kind of helps like spark some ideas on like the different, because really what's interesting is when we design these databases, we really are building the foundation of like the business logic that's eventually going to take place. Like when you design a database, really you're designing the business logic that kind of occurs there, is which really is where it gets really interesting. So a lot of that just depends on, I think when you're doing this, that's why when I started out, I kind of had to ask like those immediate upfront questions, kind of just to understand how it worked. Because it's versus Excel, it's not just a dumping ground of data. We're actually defining as part of the process like how like the application will work, so to speak, or how the data works with each other is really the better way to put it.
Right.
Which is can either make it easier or more complicated, I guess. But anyways, hopefully that helps.
No, yeah.
Um,
that does. I have another question.
Yep.
She said, eventually we'd like the tools to have, now that you're talking about date stamps, we'd like the tools to have like I don't know if this isn't even a possibility, like a built-in, hey, have we contacted this owner in the last 30 days? So I wonder if we could use the start and date time with the tools, or down the road. They're not actually doing that right now, but she'd like her employees to be able to say, this owner hasn't been contacted in 30 days. or they've been contacted in which way, you know, we sent them an email, we called them, we offered this, or we asked this. Anyway, something like that. I see your wheels are already turning.
Yep. Yeah. So basically what we can do here is say like, hey, you know, just like that, right? Like we want to be able to track our contacts. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, you know, we're going to build this table that's going to just basically store, you know, when they were contacted and any kind of additional, and really we can add data here as much as we kind of want to glean off of it. So what we can do is we can just kind of build this to say, hey, you know, we want to make whoops, this is going to reference the center and center ID. Right. So now all of a sudden we just added one table, and now that will let people just kind of log contacts with the center. And we can use the database itself to find out like who we need to contact. Because we could write a query and say, hey, look, all the centers that have this tool, you know, in one subscription or another, or one bundle or another, you know, any center that's tied to this tool, you know, that doesn't have a contact log within the last 30 days.
Yeah.
And bam, like there's our report that basically tells us who we need to call.
Right. Yeah, that's perfect.
So yeah, I'll actually save this model for you.
Oh, thanks.
I'm going to save this model and then I will shoot it over to you.
Oh, that is awesome. And then I'll start adding the information.
Yeah, exactly. Because then, in next week, what we'll do is we're going to cover how to actually populate the database using this, because we can actually make it generate the database for us. So we'll do that next week, and then once we get the database actually created, then the next step is to start populating that data in there. Which honestly is kind of like, I don't know, it's more tedious just because you have to kind of like fake data.
Yeah.
But maybe where you have like access to data, you know, for you it might just be, hey, maybe I just need to take these Excel sheets and like separate them out into their different data components and just, you know, put them in there.
Is that all right to use real?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yep. As long as you're comfortable using that and like it being okay to share or whatever.
It would just be for you, right? You're the only one who's going to see it.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. And then, darn it, I had another question, but oh well, it's gone. It'll come later.
Yeah, we can always
I remember in the modules for the discussion devotional, is there something that should be happening there, or is that just in like if you need it, you can go there?
Yeah, that's just if you need it.
Okay.
You know, we typically tend to use Teams as kind of like the in place of those. I think it fosters more of like you know, if most time if people ask a question, it's more real time versus like the discussion boards in Canvas. Right. So okay. Yeah. Yep.
Just want to make sure I wasn't missing anything there.
Yep. It's just kind of there. Yeah.
Just in case.
All right.
Okay. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your help.
Yeah. Feel free to noodle on that and, you know, like I said, kind of play with it, adjust it to your needs. I'll shoot it over to you. And if you have any questions, just feel free to ping me.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right. Yep. No problem.